The Anbernic RG 477M, what I consider the most premium 4x3 retro handheld. Hey guys, I'm Luke and welcome back to another episode of Triforced Tech, as in this one, we're going to be taking a look at Anbernic's RG 477M. Not the best title for a retro handheld, but that's Anbernic for ya. And while I'm not the biggest fan of Anbernic, honestly, this is my favorite device when it comes to play retro 4x3 games, because it is honestly the most premium one there is out there. So, while I did make a video on the most budget-friendly 4x3 retro handheld to get, this video will be about the most premium and expensive 4x3 handheld there is that I would recommend getting as well. So as most of you should already know, I have quite the addiction to these retro handhelds. It's a hobby that once you get into, it's quite the rabbit hole, because you continue just looking for more convenient and optimal ways to play the same retro games that can run on any of these devices. But yeah, in terms of the most premium way to do so, I have to say it's this, the Anbernic 477M, which again, a weird title, and I'm not the biggest fan of Anbernic, but compared to every other retro handheld I've owned, this is my favorite way to play 4x3 content. One of the main reasons that should be immediately obvious is that build quality. It has a metal shell, which makes the device feel so hefty and premium. It doesn't feel like a toy whatsoever. And that 4.7-inch 120 hertz display, yeah, it's quite the gorgeous screen to look at. On top of how amazing the face buttons feel, I mean, that is definitely an Anbernic staple. While I don't love the company to death, they definitely kill it when it comes to the buttons. Easily the best in the business when it comes to retro handhelds. Now, of course, when I'm talking about buttons, I'm only talking about the D-pad and ABYX, that being the face buttons. I am not talking about the triggers, because the triggers are abysmal for this device. Luckily, I modded them to make them much more convenient. Now, before modding the device, the trigger buttons would have looked kinda like these, which are inline triggers, and these are absolutely horrible when trying to play games that need to use, you know, L2 and R2. But luckily for most retro games, you're not actually gonna have to use them, so it's not really a deal breaker. Luckily, I was able to mod them thanks to an Etsy seller, and yeah, these are so freaking nice. I don't know why Anbernic didn't come up with these, because they truly make the device have no compromises, because that was my biggest issue. So yeah, luckily you can mod them, and I'm gonna make sure to link their Etsy shop in the description below if you are interested, because they make pretty much better, you know, stacked triggers and shoulder buttons for all sorts of Anbernic products. Because yeah, Anbernic is so inconsistent with their quality and how their devices are. Like, some are really good, some have certain issues. Everyone has like one major flaw, and that has to be this device's major flaw. So luckily that can be remedied if you're willing to mod the device. But outside that one major flaw, there's really not much else bringing it down. I mean, this device is easily my go-to when I want to play 4x3 games, because yeah, everything just looks absolutely gorgeous on this giant 4.7-inch display. It's not an LCD or an OLED, it's an LTPS, which I don't really know much about, but all I know is it visually looks really damn good, especially compared to LCDs. Maybe not as vibrant and clear as an OLED, but in terms of the screen size and it being 120 hertz, yeah, it's pretty damn good. And like mentioned before, pretty much the main reason why I keep coming back to this device is those face buttons. Yeah, as much as I want to give Anbernic crap for inconsistent quality, damn are they the best in their class when it comes to literally how nice the buttons feel. They're so mushy, and they don't have that, you know, clacky and clicky nature that all other retro handhelds have. They just feel so good. The pivot for moving around is just so smooth and nice. And yeah, when playing next to a partner who's asleep or my child, I don't have to worry about making any loud noises, because they literally make virtually no noise. It's just nice and mushy and just gives you a lot of feedback. I'm not gonna lie, like, once you really try these, you're gonna understand why they feel so good. Again, the same can't be said about the LNR, you know, bumpers and triggers, but yeah, if you mod those, at least they will feel nicer, but they still will sound really clicky and clacky. In terms of analog sticks, they're pretty much the same run-of-the-mill 3D Hall effect, you know, full range of motion sticks that all retro devices have. They feel absolutely amazing, but honestly, I don't even need to use them because, again, that D-pad is so good. I can even play 3D games with the D-pad because of how nice it feels. Like, I'm not even kidding. It feels pretty good controlling Link like this. Like, yeah, I am completely fine. But of course, yeah, what's super nice about these is you can easily swap them with other devices, because I'm not kidding when I say they're the exact same analog sticks as like what Retroid uses. Boom, I can just pop this one out and then place it here, and then, yeah, there you go. I'm not even using the stock ones that came with this, because the stock ones, for some reason, again, Anbernic, I'm just not a fan of their taste, because they're still using Switch 1 style analog sticks. But luckily, again, you can swap them out, so the actual plastic isn't really the issue. At least they're Hall effect, and they have the same RGB lighting as every other retro handheld. But again, you can just swap them between one another, which, yeah, will let you choose which is most comfortable. And overall, again, for this retro device, you don't even need analog sticks this good, but at least you have them. Now, in terms of ergonomics, the device isn't that bad, at least when playing D-pad-centric games. You know, it feels completely comfortable just holding it like this, even with my giant hands. But when it comes to using analog games, just like with most retro handhelds, having the analog sticks down here, it doesn't feel that comfortable. It probably would need a grip or something to make it feel better, but overall, the device isn't bad, especially for it being flat in the back. I actually prefer this. Well, again, I do like me a booty. I don't like it on retro devices, because this, while can add to its ergonomics, it makes it not so pocket friendly. I'd much rather have the device be completely flat, and that is one of the reasons in why the triggers were kind of, you know, compromised in not being stack triggers, instead inline triggers. But again, if you're willing to mod it, you can easily fix that issue. And on top of that, luckily with this mod, it doesn't actually change its pocketability, as the profile for it is pretty much virtually the same. It's not like any one of these devices that, yeah, would have issues with putting it in your pocket, as it could kind of clip up to your pants or something. Like, overall, having these kind of stealth triggers are really nice, because, yeah, I want these handhelds to also be pocketable. That's the whole point of it being a handheld. Now, in terms of performance, this device can play all the way up until GameCube and PlayStation 2 without a hitch. It can even upscale them, as it has the strongest chipset Anbernic has ever given one of their retro handhelds, that being the Dimensity 8300 processor, which, while it isn't as convenient as a Snapdragon, kind of like what the Retroid Pocket has, just because you can add drivers and tweak it a little bit more, what Anbernic has given us is something that kind of just works pretty well right out of the box. Well, yeah, you won't be able to tweak it as much. It just works. That's all I can say. You know, as Todd Howard would say, it just works. Because, yeah, we can easily jump into GameCube. Again, like I said, upscaled and everything. And, yeah, there are no slowdowns or anything. Everything runs really well. Of course, when buying these devices, you're probably going to want to focus mainly on retro games. But at least you do have the capability of going even up to GameCube and PlayStation 2 really, really well. So yeah, when compared to what I consider the most budget-friendly 4x3 retro handheld, that being the Anbernic Pocket Air Mini, the RG 477M is leagues better because of its chipset, because yeah, anything you throw at it, it's going to work in terms of retro games. You're not going to have to tinker as much as you would have to with this. But again, this is pretty much 3 times the price of this one, so it kind of makes sense in why. It's not just the chipset, of course, it's also the screen. I mean, that screen, again, is so beautiful on the Anbernic. Compared to this, with it being 60 Hertz, it looks absolutely ghostly in comparison when looking at it side by side, because, yeah, again, this is 120 hertz, well, this is 60 hertz, but even then, I don't know, something's wrong with this display because it feels somewhat ghostly, like, all the time. It doesn't even look like a normal 60 hertz display, kind of like the Retroid Pocket, which, yeah, while it uses an OLED screen, again, I would much rather play with a much bigger screen, and overall, the display in itself is gorgeous enough to not really need OLED. But while on the topic of the Retroid Pocket Mini, I definitely have to compare the two, as the Retroid Pocket Mini was my initial first purchase when it came to the premium 4x3 retro handheld, as yeah, Retroid Pocket released this about 2 years ago now, and while I was so excited to get this, especially being a fan of the Retroid Pocket 2 and 2S, I just wanted the next, you know, premium 4x3 handheld. And while technically they did deliver with this, it is nothing in comparison to this. One of the main reasons for that is the screen. I mean, yeah, the screen size is so much smaller, and technically, this isn't really authentically a 4x3 handheld. What I mean by that, and a quick history lesson for those who don't know about this retro handheld drama, is when Retroid Pocket first released this device, they, yeah, named it a 4x3 handheld with a 4x3 resolution. I mean, as you can tell, it's 4x3, right? But comes out, someone actually tried to mod the device and take it apart and realized that the screen size was actually bigger. So they literally shrunk the screen by reducing the top and bottom of the screen, making bigger bezels on the top and bottom to make it actually 4x3 instead of the aspect ratio of the Retroid Pocket Classic. And when that happened, Retroid was offering, you know, screen replacements and even released a version 2 of this device. Right now, you can't find any of that, so I can't even recommend this device even if I wanted to, but I wouldn't want to because I know this device technically has a smaller, or is artificially a smaller screen than what it should be, because again, it's supposed to be the exact same size of the Retroid Pocket Classic, which would have been perfect for Game Boy Color and, you know, sort of Game Boy games. But yeah, for some reason, Retroid really wanted to make it a 4x3 screen, so they decided to add their own bezels, which is really stupid because, I mean, it's an OLED. We wouldn't even notice the bezels regardless, especially on a black model, so you didn't have to force it. But anyways, that is probably the main reason and why I would choose the Anbernic over the you know, Retroid Pocket. I mean, but not really just for that. Obviously, if the screen was the same size of this one, it would still be off because it wouldn't actually be 4x3. So this screen in general is just too small, even if you do try to tweak it. And overall, the device in itself, I mean, it is a mini for a reason. It is super small. So yeah, that is why I would much rather prefer this. Again, may not be OLED, but whatever this LTPS screen is, it is, again, super damn good and vibrant that I don't even miss an OLED when playing it. Now, you may be wondering, well, okay, the Retroid Pocket Mini was a bust, it's too small, it doesn't have the proper screen. What about the Retroid Pocket 5? Well, here's the thing, like I said, I prefer to play 4x3 games on a 4x3 console. That's kind of, again, the weird problem that when you get into this hobby you may have. You want every device to be perfect for the system you're playing. So I only want to play 16:9 games on this. It feels weird playing 4x3 games because I don't want the black screen. And while, again, this is OLED and technically you can hide the black screen because, you know, it won't show up, and I shouldn't boot up a game that might be, okay, there we go. Let's just boot up something that won't be 16:9. I don't think this will be, but it is, right? Okay, there we go. Let's just boot up GameCube. And like I said, when booting up 4x3 games on this, it just feels wrong. Even if you have an OLED and it hides the back display and everything. Well, I do suggest this over this in general. If you're crazy like me and you need it to be 4x3 because it's a retro handheld and you don't want it to be 16:9, then this would be the better option because, yeah, you would get exactly what you wanted. But of course, when it comes to, you know, in terms of convenience and just overall better bang for your buck, this would overall be a way better purchase. So if you're new to the hobby, yeah, just get yourself a Retroid Pocket 5. I already made a whole video about that. But if you're someone like me who needs a device to correspond with the games that you're playing and be the proper aspect ratio and just feel proper about it, then this is the way you want to go, because yeah, now we can truly enjoy the game. I mean, technically GameCube isn't truly 4x3, but if you stretch it to 4x3, you're not really going to notice that it's stretched. It's not like stretching it to 16:9. I would consider that blasphemous. But yeah, if you look at these side by side, I mean, it still looks, in my eyes, yeah, well, this may look kind of more contrasty, I guess. I feel like it's mainly the camera doing that, because when I'm looking at them in real time, it looks pretty much the same. I just think that my brightness might be off on this one. But yeah, I mean, they get the same bright, they get the same dark, and also, yeah, you get just more real estate. So it just looks genuinely better on this screen because it fills up the entire screen. While again, you can't really notice it here, I just much rather prefer playing on an actual 4x3 screen to play 4x3 games. I know, it's a weird thing, but it's just, that's how I do it. I think this stemmed from ever since the Retroid Pocket 2 came out, I've been looking for that next premium 4x3 device. And I feel like we haven't really gotten it because, yeah, Retroid kind of fumbled the bag. We'll see what happens if they release a Retroid Pocket Mini 2. Maybe that will, you know, take over the crown and replace my obsession with the RG 477M. But in terms of performance, both the RP5 and the RP Mini are pretty identical when it comes to what the Anbernic 477M can handle, because while they do have different chipsets, they are pretty much the same powerful in performance, at least when I compare the two. But like mentioned before, the Retroid line has a Snapdragon chipset, so you can tweak things with drivers and everything and maybe have things run a little bit better. But with how Anbernic managed to tweak their Dimensity processor, it just kind of works again right outside of the box. So I don't even find myself needing to tweak or looking for drivers to begin with. Everything just kind of works. So yeah, overall, I think this is just the most premium way to play 4x3 games, because the metal shell and again, the 120 hertz display and it being so much bigger than pretty much most retro devices, because they can just focus on it being 4x3. Again, if you're buying a retro handheld and you want to play retro games, you probably don't want to get a 16:9 screen. This is something I didn't only consider until after I got the Retroid Pocket Mini and realized how, you know, small and tiny it is, and how again they lied to us with the screen. So yeah, I'll be honest, I was just kind of looking for the successor of this, and I mean, with this being metal and kind of having very similar ergonomics, I mean, also being a flat kind of console, no booty or anything, I really do feel like this is the true successor. Like, sorry RP Mini, you're not it. This here is it. It may be a different company, but still a Chinese retro handheld. So, you know what? It does the job for me. And honestly, something that makes the Anbernic feel even better than just having a better chipset, better screen, being more modern, is also, like I said, the face buttons and the D-pad. We all know Retroid is known for their Vita-esque D-pad, and it's very clicky. And while it is nice, don't get me wrong, I think everyone has their own preferences, so maybe you'll actually prefer this over Anbernic's. But when it comes to really feeling that Nintendo nostalgia and feel, and when Nintendo had really nice D-pads, this is really the way to go. I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever felt a D-pad that feels better than this one. Well, I do think it looks ugly. I kind of wished it had the, you know, Vita aesthetic, or just really a more simple aesthetic. I don't know, just something about the D-pad in itself is just not attractive to me. I don't know why I want the D-pad to look better, but I don't know, just like compared to all other devices, you know, this one just doesn't look as good, but it feels so good that I'm willing to not, you know, care about its looks, because genuinely, like I said, no other D-pad feels better, and that is one of the main reasons why I keep coming back to this over any other retro handheld when I want to play D-pad centric games. I am not kidding. And of course, as mentioned, this device is mainly for 4x3 games, right? But something I found myself playing quite a bit, which technically is a 4x3, resolution, that being DS games, just 2 of them, right? Obviously, the DS has 2 screens, and something I really didn't know until recently is the screen is exactly 4x3, just like, a CRT or any of these screens. And because of that, it's been so fun to go back and play DS games, specifically DS games that focus mainly on one screen. So like Golden Sun, yeah, you'll have your map and other, information on the top, but you're mainly playing on the bottom screen. And yeah, lately I've been playing Golden Sun, pretty much started a new file on it, already 10 hours in, and having so much fun playing it. Pretty much, I was already doing that on this device here, that being obviously an actual authentic DSi XL. And this was honestly one of my go-to daily carries. I loved the color and the way it looked, and I'll be honest, this kind of being somewhat brown as well made it seem like a successor, like a one-screen macro successor to the DSi XL, because yeah, pretty much I can play Golden Sun, which with also the exact same screen like filter, because as you can see, and I'm sure my camera is picking it up, just not the best job at it, it has a weird kind of like scan line look to it. And I don't know, I like that because it makes it feel authentic. And obviously with emulation, you can add those scan lines artificially. And there you go. I literally have that on this game. And of course, like I said, I can easily swap between the top and bottom screen just by clicking a hotkey like that. And I can also fast forward the hell out of things, which make, especially for an RPG like this, so much easier. I can't believe I even played so much of the game on this, when again, I can use the power of emulation and make it even better. So yeah, being able to play through like DS games in a full, aspect ratio because it's fitting the 4x3 resolution. I honestly didn't even care about like CRT retro games like the N64 or SNES or PS1. I'm like, okay, this is my DS machine, especially because it has that chipset too, because I can't do that with this. Well, yeah, I can play actual retro games on the Neo, Pocket Air Mini. I cannot fast forward because the chipset is not strong enough. And yeah, technically I would want that extra juice. So that extra juice is actually useful for still retro games because it will give you the ability to fast forward, because yeah, at least DS, it requires a bit more CPU power than something that is like sub $100. And like, even when compared to the DSi XL screen, again, XL screen, this is still a bigger screen, so more reason to choose this over the actual hardware. And of course, because it has a decent chipset, you can obviously play Android games on it and everything else in between that Android does, because yeah, it does have Android OS built in it. I believe Android 14. Don't really expect any of these retro devices to get updated, but it's fine. At least you can download most Play Store games pretty easily. You don't have to worry about that. But again, why even do that? I buy these devices for the retro games, and yeah, having something like Emulation Station being a front end, you can just have access to each and everything, and setting up you can all do off the actual device because it is Android. So that is just a huge benefit, being able to open up Chrome, download whatever you need to download, get the emulators you need, everything in between. It just is all seamless and nice. And yeah, it's hard not to recommend these devices. I mean, really any though, but again, if you're like a snob who wants the most premium way to play 4x3 and it needs the screen to be 4x3, then this is the device for you. Now, Anbernic sells 2 variants of this device, one with 8 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage, and the other being 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage. And I have that one because I wanted a little bit of extra power and the most premium version of it. And yeah, again, it really does fit the bill. And speaking of the bill, this device is pretty expensive. I mean, it goes upwards of $200, as again, it has a pretty good chipset, pretty much on par with the Retroid Pocket 5 and Mini, as well as the fact that, yeah, you get a big screen, you get really good buttons, and you get that extra RGB lighting. Again, the only issue would have been the trigger and shoulder buttons, but also don't forget the fact that this device, immediately just by picking it up with how heavy it is, yeah, you also get the metal shell. And of course, I don't think it's worth mentioning, but just in case, pretty much every retro device, with it being an Android-based handheld or even a low-end Linux-based handheld, they all take memory cards, so you can add your SD card in it and, you know, expand the storage. So yeah, that is something that I feel like is a given. I don't have to mention. One thing that isn't a given, I guess, is, you know, a headphone jack, which is nice to have on these devices, especially if you want to use it for multimedia purposes. Obviously, it uses USB-C to charge, and you can output your screen on a different device. With it being Android, you can have a second screen. And yeah, not really much else. I guess one issue, I said the main issue was the, you know, inline triggers that, again, you can mod, but you can't actually mod the fan, because yeah, the fan does get pretty loud when the device starts to heat up, and it is just jarringly loud. Like, it just is this weird hissing sound that you can hear pretty well here. I'll go ahead and turn it on and see if my microphone picks it up. I'm sure it will, so maybe. I'm not entirely sure. We'll pretend you can hear a loud fan, okay? So, I mean, maybe you can already, but yeah, that doesn't necessarily bug me though, because it barely does turn on. It's only like, let's say I have fast forward on for a while, I'll start to hear it kick, and I'll be honest, there are times where I didn't have it set in auto, and I just put stop, and the device didn't really heat up that much. With it being a metal shell, yeah, you would worry about, you know, when it heats up, it will make the device quite hot, but I'll be honest, the device is mainly cold for the most time, almost to the point where I prefer having a case on it, because I don't like to pick it up when it's really cold. So yeah, luckily Anbernic does ship with each unit a silicone case, and I had to obviously tweak it a little bit to make the buttons fit, because again, they were designed for the inline triggers and bumpers. And yeah, luckily they do have this plastic case that just makes it feel a little bit better, especially if you don't like your skin against the metal. It does kind of help, but I'll be honest, it takes away from the premium feel. So usually if I'll have it on display, or just in general want to show it off, I will take off the case. And I mean, it's a metal shell. I don't think it actually needs the case. The case 100% is just for the texture and grip, if, you know, you're not a fan of how it feels. But luckily they do have these weird plastic, you know, like grips on the side. I do believe this is mainly for the fact that, you know, the Wi-Fi card, it needs a way to, you know, get signal, because obviously this is a full metal shell. It wouldn't be the best in terms of getting signal to and from the device. So yeah, that's another reason why they exist. But I mean, I like the way they feel. It's a little grippy. It has a texture to it. It's not bad. And overall, again, just holding this device, it feels really good if you're playing D-pad centric games, which is what it's designed for. And because this device has a somewhat overpowered chipset for the games you are most likely going to play on it, that being the 4x3 retro games, you can do stuff like this, where I added a CRT filter to the game, which, yeah, can take a little bit of, you know, processing power. I mean, Nintendo straight up locked the CRT filter for Nintendo Switch 2 only for N64 Online, because apparently the Switch 1 can't handle it. And funny enough, the fan literally did turn on for a second. I believe it turned back off, luckily. Again, because I have it on auto. So sometimes, yeah, I'll just hear it hissing. But yeah, because of that, it adds a really nice CRT filter that I think looks better than Nintendo Switch 2's CRT filter, and yeah, it makes N64 games just look and feel so much better. Again, I've been adding a filter pretty much on every game I'm emulating, just because I can easily do that, whether I'm using RetroArch or the emulation itself, because I do kind of tinker back and forth. Sometimes I'll use RetroArch, but as you can see, I have all the standalone emulators as well, which can make it pretty convenient to find the most optimal way to play things and change things for your liking. But yeah, in terms of like N64 as well, which is a 4x3, meant for CRT, you really get that CRT vibe when holding it like this. I mean, yeah, this is kind of one of the main reasons and why I'm so drawn to this device as well. And again, if I don't like the ergonomics of the analog sticks, I'll just use this. Like, okay, it's not actually that good, but the fact that it works is kind of insane. Like, here, let me do something that shouldn't be possible on a D-pad, but, okay, wait, let's do it here. Look at that, instant spin attack. Like, come on. That is pretty damn good, D-pad pivot, because you would not be able to do that on a regular D-pad. Like, the fact that I could do a full 360 spin and literally just walk in circles as Link is so nice. And again, one of the main reasons, like, I have to say, like, as much as I prefer Retroid and how premium their devices are in comparison, yeah, Anbernic and their face buttons, they're just next level. They make them mushy and soft, but also have so much feedback to them. It's hard to explain unless you actually try it, but that really is Anbernic's saving grace. And one perk about all these companies emulating each other is they all usually have the same kind of perks when it comes to tweaking their operating system. So, while again, this uses Android like most of these retro devices, Retroid would add a way to switch from, a Nintendo Switch layout to a Xbox layout, and you can do the same with Anbernic. Again, we got the RGB lights that we can switch and swap between, and if anything, they're a lot more interactive on this than they would be on any Retroid handheld, because, yeah, Retroid still has just static lighting. This one actually has where you can have multiple colors, and also it can transition like from the rainbow. So that's what I currently have, doing every single color. But on top of it, it has the extra dim feature, which is super nice. I love how Android devices have that, because yeah, it gets so dim that at nighttime, I don't necessarily need an OLED. I know OLED gives you the true blacks and all of that, but like, yeah, when I'm playing in bed, if I do extra dim and bring it all the way down, it's pretty much the same. I guess, again, it's hard to tell on the screen. It does look a little bit brighter here, and maybe it might be, but it's not enough to actually notice it in person. One thing I am noticing is that OLED in general looks really good on a camera lens compared to the human eye, because, well, again, no, don't get me wrong, OLED looks amazing on the human eye as well. This screen looks really good, but it looks so washed out on my, viewfinder. So again, don't be persuaded by how it may look on camera. This screen is gorgeous, and you're not even going to be missing OLED when you have a screen like this. But yeah, here I have a demo of Dark Cloud playing, as, just showing off the upscaled resolution on PlayStation 2. And as you can tell, running flawlessly. I've played and tested so many games. Don't really think it's worth showing, because I think you can trust me when I say you'll be able to play most PlayStation 2 games pretty well. Same goes for GameCube and everything before those consoles. But I'll be honest, I mainly try to focus on Nintendo games with this console in particular, because of the D-pad being Nintendo-esque, and obviously the layout being based off of, a Nintendo controller as well. Again, when you have so many options, you end up using certain devices for certain things. So yeah, you'll only find me playing like PlayStation games on my modded Retroid Pocket 5 with PlayStation buttons. While I still would prefer to play games on an actual 4x3 screen, I guess I would still play on this one, depending on the game. I mean, luckily a lot of PlayStation 2 games you can turn to widescreen. I mainly actually play Vita and PSP games on this. I probably will find myself trying to still play PS1, PS2 on a 4x3 screen, because again, there's just something special about having the game fill up the whole screen and not have any black bars. And while you can add mods and stuff like that, I like to play the games authentically, even if it's still emulated. Most authentic way you can play it as emulated. Now let's say you're somewhat sold on this device, particularly because of the screen and the face buttons being so nice. But the only problem is the pricing. Well, luckily you can buy a less premium version of this device. Now, I don't have the device on hand, and I don't plan on getting it because I have the superior version, but that is the RG476H. That device is almost less than half of what it cost for this device. And it uses the exact same screen this device has, with similar face buttons and analog sticks, and hell, actually has stack shoulder and trigger buttons on it from the get-go. The only difference, of course, is the chipset is substantially weaker, so you're not going to be able to play PlayStation 2 and GameCube, at least in really high quality. And of course, it doesn't have a full-on metal shell, but it does have a front glass display very similar to the Retroid Pocket. I honestly kind of look at it as Anbernic's version of the Retroid Pocket Mini, as it's very similar, except it has Anbernic's touch of face buttons and aesthetics. But again, because it has the exact same 120Hz 4.7-inch display, I would also recommend that even over the Retroid Pocket Mini, especially because it is cheaper and you can't actually buy this device anymore. Straight up Retroid has taken it off of their website, even the version 2 with the proper screen. So yeah, I honestly never thought I would be recommending an Anbernic product so soon on the channel, but truly, this is Anbernic's flagship and easily my favorite device they have ever made. So yeah, ever since I kind of got back into wanting to play 4x3 retro games, I was looking for the perfect retro device to do exactly that, as that was what initially got me to start this hobby. I thought I would never even want to buy a 16:9 retro handheld to begin with, and yeah, I still find myself preferring and wanting a pocket size, because I mean, let's be honest, even the Retroid Pocket 5, while there's pocket in the name, it's not the most pocket friendly, especially with that ass. But yeah, I've been looking for the true successor to the Retroid Pocket 2 and 2S, and again, the Mini just sadly did not do the job. So I truly do feel like Anbernic's RG477M, the worst name ever, but yeah, I truly do feel like it does the exact thing I want it to do, and kind of more, just because I can play even beyond retro games because it's so much stronger. And again, the screen, everything, its pocketability, its thinness, the fact that it's metal, it feels like, you know, this is a handheld meant for adults. Like, everything about it, I just absolutely love. The only caveat would be the fan could be too loud, but that could easily be ignored, especially if you're like watching TV or have headphones on or something like that, and not playing games that are too demanding. And also the, you know, shoulder and trigger buttons, but again, you can mod them, so that doesn't have to be a permanent issue. Yeah, you're gonna have to open up the device and tinker with it a little bit, and some people may not want to do that, but again, then get the RG476H. I got it, right? I absolutely hate Anbernic's choices on device names, but yeah, so you have an even cheaper option with Retroid's, you know, all front glass flare that they're doing. So yeah, well, I can't show that, you know, with me, because there's no way in hell I'm buying that. Why am I going to buy an inferior version to this device? I'm not like every other retro handheld reviewer where I get every single device for free. I hope that would happen one day. I don't know, but yeah, in general, my point is, like, yeah, I'm loving this device. I just felt like I'd make a quick video to recommend it, because even though I had this device for a little bit, ever since I kind of modded it and changed it up a bit, I found myself, yeah, just coming back to this device and loving it even more than the first day I got it. So I wanted to make this video kind of recommending my recommendation for the most premium 4x3 handheld. But of course, I'm open to talk about all the other devices I have. That's the whole point of this channel, exploring this weird hobby that I have, and, you know, trying to make use of buying these devices. Because while I have slowed down on purchasing them, it doesn't mean I still don't play them every day and just want to talk about them as often as possible. So yeah, let me know what else you'd like to hear me talk about in the comments below. Let me know if you enjoyed. This was more of a casual kind of video. I wasn't necessarily trying to review the device, but more so compare and give a reason and why I'm choosing this as my number one 4x3 handheld over any other. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought, what else you'd like to see me discuss, anything else in the comments below. For real, I would appreciate it. Even if you don't want to comment, just give me a comment. I'd appreciate it. You know, we're starting off a new channel. Give me a like, all that. I feel like I'm begging, but I kind of have to kind of get my feet wet and get somewhere with this channel. So I'd very, very much appreciate it if you even slightly enjoy this kind of content. So for real, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this video for what it was. And yeah, that does it for this episode of Triforced Tech. I'll see you all in the next one.